Welcome to First Presbyterian Church of Worship on this August 22nd, 2021. It's good to be with you on this Sunday, whether you're joining us while we stream at 9 a.m. or are catching us later through our offered recording of this service. We're glad that you're part of us. When we come together, wherever we are in time and space, we do affirm that we are one and we are together and woven together in God and in the divine. So welcome. We're glad wherever you are in your own journey. Please know, we're glad that you're part of us. We can affirm who you are. We are online, obviously, and we'll be online next week, the 29th. And then on the 5th, I invite you to shift a bit with worship beginning at 10 a.m. as we move back into our regular worship time at 10 o'clock. And that will actually be in person, outdoors at Central Park, right across the street from the church. And we'll be joining First Christian Church, First Congregational Church, United Congregation of Corvallis, and First United Methodist Church of Corvallis in a joint service. Not as many of the churches are joining us for this traditional Labor Day ecumenical service, but the four of us have determined to join together, have an outdoor service. You will need to bring your own chair, and you'll need to bring a mask and wear it anytime that you cannot safely distance. So I would wear it until you situate yourself, and as long as you're seated with your household only and 6 feet from one another, you could take your mask off and then put it back on when ever you may be leaving or possibly coming in contact. So bring a mask as well, but it's your choice whether you keep it on. We'll be streaming this service to all of our regular places, and so for those who understandably may want to stay home still, you can do that and join us as well. So we look forward to that in just a couple of weeks here. So after that, our leadership, as if you saw my update, I encourage you to go look for the update on the webpage in the post section at firstpress.org, where I give you an update, just briefly, that my wife Christine, thank you for all your prayers, has come through this battle with colorectal cancer and has no signs of recurrence at this point. And of course, we now face a life of scans every 6 months. But for now, it's great news, and she's feeling better and better each day as she recovers from her treatment. So thank you for your prayers and your concern. We were glad to get that news officially just this week. And so I just want to hold a brief moment of prayer. And we gathered this morning and had some prayer at 8:30. But I just want to take a moment of silence, and then I'll close to remember the people of Afghanistan, to hold them and express to God, whether emotions or words or whatever may be, our prayers, as well as to those of Haiti and other places in the world where prayer is needed and where people need to know that they aren't alone. So let us enter into prayer. O Divine One, hear our prayers. For the people of Afghanistan, we express our prayers to you. For the people of Haiti, we express our prayers to you. Show us, O God, how beyond our prayers, how we may act or live to stand with those who are a part of us, and we are a part of them. Show us what we may do and how we may move in ways that will continue to support and help not just those of Haiti and Afghanistan, but all places people need to know they aren't alone. We lift this up to you. Amen. Well, let us begin our worship hearing from part of our scripture for today, using Proverbs chapter 8, just beginning in the middle for our call to worship here. Does not wisdom call, and does not understanding raise her voice? On the heights, beside the way, at the crossroads she takes her stand, beside the gates, in front of the town, at the entrance of the portals, she cries out, "To you, O people, I call, and my cry is to all that live. O simple ones, learn prudence, acquire intelligence, you who lack it. Hear, for I will speak noble things, and from my lips will come what is right." Let us worship God.
Today's scripture is the 14th Psalm. Fools say in their hearts, "There is no God." They are corrupt. They do abominable deeds. There is no one who does good. The Lord looks down from heaven on humankind to see if there are any who are wise, who seek after God. They have all gone astray. They are all alike perverse. There is no one who does good. No, not one. Have they no knowledge? All the evildoers who eat up my people as they eat bread, and do not call upon the Lord? There they shall be in great terror, for God is with the company of the righteous. You would confound the plans of the poor, but the Lord is their refuge. Oh, that deliverance for Israel would come from Zion. When the Lord restores the fortunes of his people, Jacob will rejoice. Israel will be glad.
Well, according to the Smithsonian, the quietest place on earth is in anechoic chamber, I think I pronounced that right, at Orfield Laboratories in Minnesota. Although I think the Smithsonian article is a bit old because I read that Microsoft may have recently built one that is even quieter. Those rich Microsoft people. These chambers are so quiet that most people cannot bear it for more than 15 minutes. And the record was 45 minutes, although I think maybe someone broke that, before people report the feeling that they are going insane. Most people feel like they're going insane within 15 minutes. Inside the room, it's silent, so silent that the background noise measured is actually negative decibels. Stephen Orfield, the lab's founder, told Hearing Aid Now, "We challenge people to sit in the chamber in the dark. One person stayed in there for 45 minutes. When it's quiet, ears will adapt. The quieter the room, the more things you hear. You'll hear your heart beating. And sometimes you can hear your lungs or hear your stomach gurgling loudly. In the anechoic chamber, you become the sound. You become the sound. Could you do that? How long could you sit in quiet? My tinnitus is hard enough in a noisy room. I don't know if I could bear that kind of silence with that becoming so loud. However, what about a different kind of silence? What about quieting all the voices and messages we hear and repeat? The ones we put on loops in our head. Can you endure that kind of silence? During my sabbatical, I was determined to try to quiet the external voices and even some of my internal voices and give myself space for contemplation and deep inner listening. It was very much a spiritual time for me, and I found it very difficult. To do so, I had to deactivate Facebook accounts and stop scrolling media that filled silence with constant messages and arguments and comments and worries and do I respond to people and questions of connection. Because I wanted to practice staying attuned to my inner teacher, I needed to quiet other voices. I wanted to connect. I wanted to sense my connection to that which I believe I am a part of, that you are a part of, the great mystery, the ineffable, the ones we give all sorts of names, God. Other people call it the universe, some the collective consciousness. I really wasn't concerned with the theology of defining it and naming it, because I believe that kind of energy distracts us, saps our energy from actually experiencing it. And one of the issues that we have, we talk about things, but don't experience them. I only know that I have experienced, I have heard and been in touch with a deeper sense of presence, my own self, a deeper sense of self, my own soul, but also one that I believe is woven into something bigger than me. And I have over the years tried to learn to trust it more and more, and it's a very real to me. In my best self, it's guiding me, and I'm listening to it. It's both part of me, but also I know bigger than me. It is the ring when things ring true. It is the spark at the center of joy. It is the answer to the question, why? It is the ultimate companion that prevents me from being utterly and completely alone in the universe. And when I preserve space to hear and to stand in it, to trust it, to let it guide me, I am exponentially more healthy and more at peace with myself, with others, and the world. I become more and more my best self. And I believe this lies at the core of every human being. And I believe all can experience it. Yet I don't believe we're encouraged to be in touch with that part of ourselves. I believe the world and those who profit from the world do so by keeping people from learning how to sit and center in themselves, to trust that. A distracted and scattered-brained people, a divided and fearful populace, a suppressed and obedient workforce is much better for those who seek profits and power. And a lot of people, I think, took time to be in touch with that part of themselves during the pandemic. And now things are getting flipped over. And people who depend on people not asking the bigger questions and being in a deeper place are struggling and scrambling. There's another part of our bodies that, when stimulated, can become a loud and overwhelming voice that keeps us from hearing our deeper self, pulls us from contemplating a wider truth and connection. We all have this thing called an amygdala, and within this is our evolutionary mechanism to survive. It's not a bad thing. When we perceive danger or threat, it releases whatever chemicals that a biologist or doctor could tell you about. And we enter into one of two modes, fight or flight. And many of the voices and messages today, I believe, are aimed at triggering the amygdala, triggering our flight or fight. And they're designed to do so. And we get in a pattern then of being triggered and then reacting in a fearful way. And it is a constant noise, like my tinnitus. But it is one that can keep us from getting beyond the fight or flight reaction to a place where we trust what is right and true. Many people are stuck and manipulated by social media. Not everybody. Some use it in healthy ways. Or some are addicted to a single cable news channel, being constantly triggered by what they want you to be triggered by. But none of those places, I think, not too many of them, are encouraging you to be thoughtful, contemplative, or spiritual. Now, let me say early, this is not a sermon about conspiracy theories. I am not saying that all threats are manufactured and we don't want to listen to them. That there aren't things that we need to be respectfully cautious of and healthy fear for. COVID, for instance, is a real threat that warrants a strong response. However, there has been a lot of rhetoric aimed to only trigger people's fight or flight responses and has politicized our ability to build consensus over what is best and what is most important and what is right, and has compromised a lot of people's ability to think critically. But what I'm wanting to focus on is that there is a deeper part of us that does not contradict the reality of the natural world, its threats and our observations, but which helps us live in it in a way that transcends our immediate evolutionary fight or flight response. It calls us to evolve beyond the self-centeredness of our instincts, self-protectiveness of our instincts, the tribalism of our instincts, and perhaps the flight instinct to isolate. It calls us to be better than the animals who live from one reaction to our fears to the next, constantly reacting and never really discerning. And I believe that this part of us, this source, is all connected, is in a sense all one, not distinct or separate individual voices of wisdom in all of us, but one source. In Proverbs, traditionally attributed to King Solomon, but likely from a conglomeration of authors and editors, we learn about wisdom. The word here in Greek, Sophia. Wisdom is personified as a personality. Next week, we will read the rest of chapter 8, and that points to the fact that wisdom was created at the beginning and part of the creation of all things, including us. Very central role in who we are. However we define wisdom, there are many definitions, and probably one for everyone who's checking in today. However we may define it, wisdom is woven in and is part of who we are. And it's important that we are people who know that this is a part of us and that we can experience it as a reality in our life. We can know it as a voice above all voices. And again, we not get bogged down by how we name it. Some of you may say, oh, well, wisdom is simply the voice or sense of Christ in my life. Or wisdom is the voice or sense of the Spirit in my life. Or wisdom is the sense of God. It's all connected, folks. We divide it up and we get bogged down in the language of dividing. What we must remember is that it is all one, it is all connected, and it connects us no matter what we call it. And it is righteous, and it is good, and it is true. We can know it as a voice above all voices in our lives. So Proverbs gives us a few steps in how to attune yourself to wisdom. Some things to remember that are important, and I think very important. But first, before we can actually attune ourselves to wisdom, we have to be able to hear it. Wisdom declares that wisdom is there. In verse 1 of chapter 8, wisdom is there on the heights at our crossroads. But if we are allowing other voices and messages to drown her out, we will not hear her. If we do not trust in this voice and trust other voices more than that, we will not hear wisdom. Do you fill your space with other voices and give them precedence in your life, whether a news channel commentator or a blogger or somebody on social media or a family member? Do you scroll through social media endlessly, even though you know you have become an algorithm that feeds you what you like to hear and what you respond to most? Do you let one person or a few dictate to you how you think or what you think? You have to attune yourself and trust that within you has been placed wisdom. Make space for yourself to hear the voice of wisdom. And how do we know the voice of wisdom? Well, in this passage, written as wisdom speaking herself, she says, learn prudence and acquire intelligence. Learn prudence and acquire intelligence. I love this. Because when people talk about inner voices, sometimes it seems like it's giving people license to just make up their own facts. Well, God told me this. And then a whole new religion has started, right? But that is not what the voice of wisdom is about. Not an individual, unique voice in every single person. Prudence, for instance, is the ability to govern and discipline oneself by the use of reason. And acquiring intelligence is the lifelong process that requires committing to learning, to having a flexible mindset, to keep those brain cells nice and what we call neuroplasticity, flexible. We do not ignore the facts and realities that are being studied and confirmed by the entire of the human community. We embrace them and allow them to challenge our instinctual, animalistic instincts of fight and flight. Wisdom encourages critical thinking. Critical thinking. I strongly believe that we need to develop critical thinking in our children and as an intentional goal of our educational systems. It should be its own curriculum and course. I contemplated how to transform traditional confirmation programs for youth, which in the past has just taught youth, this is what we believe. And at the end, we ask them, now, do you believe it too? Hooray. I don't mean to denigrate that, but I think our kids are a little bit more savvy than that and wanting to be critical thinkers because they see those same beliefs dividing people, causing violence, causing division, and it's not going to fly to just tell them what to believe what we believe. It's not going to work anymore. We need a program that allows for critical thinking about faith and religion, to give freedom to discuss what has gone wrong What's gone wrong with human religions that has caused so much division and violence? Where does the wisdom go? To see and discuss and let them investigate how and when faith and belief becomes problematic and divisive. But also to see and study and learn, where has faith made a difference for all, for the better of humanity, for the whole? Where has it brought people together? To get to the core, to rediscover the wisdom that is at the core of anything we should be believing. Teaching kids to be critical thinkers about this so they're not swept up by charismatic leaders or by manipulative communities that threaten and cajole, threatening that someone's soul is in jeopardy and spreading toxic beliefs and fear. That's what I think all of us need. Lessons in critical thinking. Wisdom wants us to think. That's why I love this. Love this passage. To really think and to always be learning. And that's encouraging to me. I hope that's encouraging to people who are ready to abandon a faith where it seems like people are just being spoon-fed and believing what they're told to believe. The last thing that this passage says in many different ways is to then be people who can hear this wisdom and find it woven in the midst of our reason and knowledge, but then also to be able to discern. We need to be able to discern. Proverbs is very clear that there are other voices out there, voices that are not true, that pervert the truth. And we can take facts and knowledge and twist and pervert them all we want. In fact, some great thinkers say that sophistry is the single greatest threat to peace and civilization today. Sophistry is the twisting of facts using false arguments to deceive and manipulate. It's gaslighting. Gaslighting is a form of sophistry. Interesting that the word itself has the root for wisdom at its core, twisting and pretending to be wisdom for evil and wicked ways. And so many voices want to fool you into believing that they are the voice that you need to listen to. And so we naturally want a guide to help us discern amidst all the knowledge and facts about what we are to do with this knowledge. So it's natural to look for a voice. It's natural to look for a guide or a teacher. And it can be dangerous to do so too, though. People who will take advantage of that desire, that search. But wisdom says, look to wisdom. Look to the source. Because wisdom is not separated from you. Wisdom's voice promises, one, that she is righteous and she is true. She is more trustworthy than any possessions, gold or silver or any wealth that we have. Wisdom has good advice and sound judgment. And kings and rulers have drawn on wisdom to learn how to make the right decisions in difficult times. In verse 17, she says, I love those who love me, and those who seek me diligently find me. Those who seek me diligently find me. So rather than worry and be anxious about whether you have wisdom or not, learn to love wisdom as a creation of God, as a part of God, and as a part of you. Seek her out, and you will find her. You will find her. That's a promise. Seek her, and you will find her. Begin by learning to quiet the other voices. Create space where you can do so. You know, they tested people who meditate in these chambers And by and large, they could last longer before reporting feeling like they were going insane. It takes discipline and practice to be able to go to that place where we can hear and listen and find wisdom. We can learn to quit the fears and anxieties that arise, that are triggered, and learn to live from a place of deep listening. And now there's more to discernment, and most importantly, that we aren't meant to do it alone. So you're not alone in this. Wisdom, in fact, is something that connects all of us and requires more than an individual to discern. And next week, I will focus on this in the second part of the passage. However, this week, I want to challenge you to seek moments, daily if you can, where you can quiet all the other voices and see how long you can go simply listening, seeking wisdom, loving wisdom. Find places in nature or wherever you feel like you can center yourself and listen. And I'd love to hear your results, and email me or call me, talk to me, or your reflections about how this goes for you. Even if you want to tell me it was very difficult, I'm empathetic to that. It wasn't always easy during my time. But know that you aren't alone. And know that wisdom is alive and something that promises when we make attempts and when we love and devote ourselves to hearing wisdom, we will find, we will hear wisdom. We'll pick up next week a little bit more on how this involves not just you, but the entire community. Until then, shalom.
Wisdom is indeed multi-layered, involving the brain and the mind, the intellect, the pursuit of true knowledge. Wisdom also involves the body, the gut. And as Pastor Matt talked about today, wisdom is so often found in silence and in stillness. And that's where our bodies can help our minds. A settled body, a quiet body, a body that breathes deeply, has the opportunity to also quiet and still the mind. And that will be part of our prayer today. So, as always, I invite you, if you're able and willing, to put your feet flat on the ground. That enables our body to begin to feel safe and rooted. And then if you're comfortable, closing your eyes or gazing at something that is down in front of you. One of the things that helps us be still and quiet is to nominally use only one or two senses. So if you're going to be using your ears, it's helpful to kind of close off your eyes. Perhaps you've placed your hands down on your thighs or maybe across your heart center, whatever is comfortable for you. I invite you to begin to notice your breath. Anytime that your mind wanders, just bring it back to your breath. Ruah, spirit. And perhaps you can also slow down your breath. As you slow and deepen your breath, so do you quiet and deepen your mind into a place of stillness. So if you'd like, following the breath as it enters your nose and goes down into your lungs, and as it leaves your lungs and leaves your nose. And then following your breath, if you'd like, sending it all the way down into your lower belly. Following it as it enters your nose and goes down into your lungs and down into your belly. and as it leaves your belly and your lungs and your nose. Try not to let your shoulders try and help you breathe. This deep breathing invites our body and minds into a stillness. And there is also certainly an amount of surrender. Not focusing on what has been or what will be, but right in this moment. We give thanks, O God, that your wisdom has been inscribed into our hearts. There your wisdom resides, to be read and reverenced, to be heard and honored. We thank you that there are ways of seeing and ways of knowing that are hidden deep in the palace of our souls, deep in the stillness and the silence. Your wisdom is waiting to be discovered, waiting to be set free. Open us, O God, to your wisdom's inner promptings. Allow your wisdom to unfold in our hearts and minds. We are grateful for the wisdom of the teachers who have shaped us, for their words and imaginative seeing. We give thanks for the wisdom of those we have known and their silence and humility of speech. And for their ability to speak with courage when it is time. Teach us to be wise to the true wisdom that is within us. And may we see the false currents as they are. May wisdom unfold in our hearts and minds and in men and women and all of every nation. You are the one, O God, who is wise enough to see the forgotten, who speaks with the voice of the silenced, and remembers and redeems those who are without hope. Hear our prayers, O God. for the places in our world where wisdom cannot be seen. And yet your hope remains. We admit the faces of the people of Afghanistan and Haiti haunt us, O God. Within them lies deep wisdom. And for all the other places where wisdom is needed, your wisdom that brings forth justice and redemption. You are a God of refugees, a God of the journey, a protector of the helpless. For those who are putting their lives, their bodies, their hearts, and their wisdom on the line to be your healing agents in COVID wards and ICUs, in classrooms, in the halls of government, have mercy, O God. Make us wise to what is ours to do. Move us from a place of helplessness to helpfulness. Strengthen and renew our faith in you and your power as it is manifest through us. May your wisdom permeate all of humanity. The earth and all its creatures. That this world that we know may become more and more a reflection of your wisdom, of your heart, and your love. Return your attention to your breath. We breathe in and we breathe out. We breathe in and together we say, Amen. Shalom, salam, shanti. May God's peace reign. In the gift of this new day, in the gift of this very present moment, in the gift of time and God being eternally entwined, may you be thankful. May you be awake. May you be open to the ways that wisdom will reveal herself to you in the most surprising and unexpected ways. May you find courage to be still and silent. May you honor the voice that is within. But may your heart continue to be open and awake to the needs of this world, that you may gain the wisdom that is born of suffering and the wisdom that is born of healing and the wisdom that is born of hope, that you may be a vessel for that hope wherever you are and wherever you may go. And all God's people say together, amen. Peace be with you, and also with you. It's going to happen again, I promise.